I'm Yvonne from Growing Old Disgracefully.
I'm Marie from Midlife Dramas in Pyjamas. You can find us both on Facebook.
And now we've come together to bring you inspirational stories from midlife and beyond in our podcast,
Hear Me Roar!
Hello! This is our second go because I cocked it up the first time. So what have you been up to?
What have you been up to? Well, shall I tell you about my little escapade into being a film star?
Oh, yes.
She jests. Well, so I got a message on Sunday night from a friend to say, did I fancy being in a video promo down at the shopping centre, to which I straight away said, absolutely, count me in. So I went down, 7:15 in the morning I was down there. Who was up at that time?
Me.
Crack of ridiculous. Actually,
Me?
You are.
Yeah.
We often message each other about 6:30 in the morning, don't we?
I know. But be honest, if you messaged me at 4:30, I'd probably be awake.
Quite likely.
I just can't sleep.
I know. It's
Anyway,
the old menopausal
I know.
insomnia.
Come on then.
So
tell us about
yes,
you.
it was very exciting. So I had to pretend to be part of a couple, and we were filmed walking in and having a coffee and going up the escalators, which was fun because I got on and it was slow, and then it suddenly sped up and I nearly fell off the damn thing. So that would be. I don't know whether she'll cut that bit out. I don't know. And then we had to go into Hobbs and pretend that Hobbs is a shop. We actually shop in.
But I know, because you know my tartan what's the
Pinafore.
word? Pinafore thing, yeah. That's from Hobbs.
Yeah.
And but they're quite expensive.
Quite
though,
expensive.
Yeah.
I've got a Hobbs dress which I bought for my son's graduation because it was a very special occasion.
Yeah.
It's the sort of shop you go for that, isn't it?
Yeah, well that was it. Like my pinafore was a Christmas present from my
Yeah.
husband, so
Yeah. But lovely clothes. I do have a couple of Hobbs tops, but they were in the sale.
I don't know, I find them there's just the odd thing that I think, wow, that's great. But then I find other bits that they have a little bit old fashioned.
Yeah.
But then
yeah.
that's just maybe me. Maybe I'm just not quite at their age group yet. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
Whereas you're ancient, so.
Do you know, I was just thinking in my head, what is she insinuating here? I've just told her I've got a dress from there and now she's calling me old. This is what I have to put up with.
Anyway, you were a
cheeky.
film star for a day.
I was a film star for a day, darling. I was, yes.
I know, and it's fabulous. And today we're talking to another star, a
Yeah.
friend, Anna Foster.
Yes.
Anna.
Very funny lady.
Yeah, she's absolutely hilarious. It's like trying to kind of, I don't know, pin the tail on the donkey, trying to trying to have a conversation with her.
Very
She's
funny.
brilliant.
You're in
She's
for a
so
treat.
funny. Anyway, she's a radio presenter and she's been doing it for 27 years across various commercial stations, including Metro, TFM and Magic. She now is a presenter for BBC Radio Newcastle, and I think she loves it because she says it's where local people are the stars.
Yeah, she's interviewed, isn't she?
She has, yeah.
Yeah.
So she's got 3 grown-up children that still, what does she say, that still leave pizza boxes under their beds.
Yeah, we know about that, don't we?
Yeah, and she has a patient husband and a lovely dog called Hope. And she's an advocate for those with OCD, and she's passionate about good mental health for all. And that's something which we did want to talk about, but it's such a big subject that we're going to do another interview with her on that, because that is her thing. She really is passionate about it. She loves tech music, singing Mozart, and Durham, what is that? Fells, Durham Fells.
I think that must be walking.
Yeah, it must be. So yeah, let's go
and meet
talk
her.
to Anna.
Yeah.
Hello, Anna.
Hello, Anna. Hello. I was just checking and the dog's licking her bits behind me, which isn't ideal as a start, but never mind.
Well, I think that sets the tone for the episode, doesn't it, somewhat?
Well, I think the last 30 minutes has actually set the tone, with me trying to get the right phone, me trying to plug the right thing in and being complete chaos, and you being very patient girls.
That's
Yes,
all right.
it has been half an hour of absolute chaos.
We
But
were just sitting here having a sip of tea every time you said fuck.
I work for the BBC. I
like-
don't say fuck.
It was like a middle-aged drinking game.
we've been eating Kit Kats as well to soak up all the tea.
God. Well, I should have crisps because I thought when you said get your cocktail ready that you meant bring a cocktail. So I bought a cocktail with me as opposed to thinking about my actual cocktail that I were going to make at the end. So I might drink it. I might be professional.
So, just out of interest, what is your cocktail in that can?
So Auntie Mally bought these for the kids and I've stolen it. Because I figure I've birthed them, I've paid for university, they're still living in my house. So I figure it's okay for me to steal their cocktails. Mix of total happiness. I have chosen one that I think they'll hate. It's a Negroni. So I just thought I'll steal that one. Yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
So
Well,
I'm going to go for
enjoy
it.
drinking it.
I'll go for it, but I'll sip it gently because I am trying to cut back on the booze.
Right. Do you want to do your introduction now?
Anna, today we're just going to talk about your career, discover a
Yeah.
bit more about you and how you got to where you are now, which is a presenter for BBC Radio Newcastle,
Yeah.
and the bumps along the way. Is that fair
Yeah.
to say? Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I'll let you kick off.
So, radio presenter, is it something you always wanted to be?
Well, not really. I'm a terribly frustrated actress. No, I did.
And
an
singer, I believe.
and an opera singer.
An opera singer.
Well, when I was little, actually, the way that I would be entertained by my mum was to give me, you remember those old like record players that they used to have in the 70s with like the tape recorder on it? There'd be like the record player there, the tape
Yeah.
recorder, it would take up the whole of like a sideboard.
Yeah.
So my granny and grandpa had one of those and they had a little microphone and I used to tell stories all the time, and I've actually got sort of tape decks of me telling those stories.
Oh, wow.
Because I was born in Carlisle, when I listen back to them, it's like, and I'm going, yeah, man, I'm going here, mum, and I'm going downstairs, and here I am, and it's very like I've got a really like strong kind of Carlisle accent, which has gone over the years. But yeah, so I think I always told stories, but also I think I'm a very curious person, so I'm always very curious about other people and their stories, and I think that's probably what's led me to stay in radio for as long as I have.
So, we're right in thinking that you actually went to the Trinity Music College. That was obviously a career you fancied.
Yeah, so after I did have like a couple of failures at university. Didn't do as well in my A levels as I thought. Ended up going to university to study something I didn't really want to study. Fell in love with the Scouse drummer. Left there because it broke my heart. Then I ended up falling into music college because that first degree, Italian and history and art, wasn't a thing. And then a friend of mine said, look, you're a lovely singer. You've got grade 8. You're a very musical person. Why don't you think about music? So at that point, I was a bit lost, as you are sometimes in your early 20s. And, I know we're going to chat about mental health another time, but I think also I wasn't terribly well, so I wasn't making great decisions. And I thought, fine, yeah, I'll be an opera singer. I love Mozart. I love singing. The idea of going to London. So I auditioned and I got into Trinity College Music, and I was there for 2 years. And then I fell in love with this Irish baritone. I won't say his name, but he hasn't become terribly famous, so I'm quite happy. And he sort of broke my heart. So I ended up. I ended up leaving after 2 years, and London just wasn't the place for me. And then I came back home to North Yorkshire, and it was there that my mum said, look, you've always been interested in other people. You've always been interested in telling stories. You love music. What about radio? So I fell into radio. I went along to Stray FM in Harrogate, 97.2, Harrogate's best music mix. Yeah. And I started there on £12.50 a show. There was a lovely man called Brian Lister, who's quite famous in radio in the Northeast. And I went along for one day just to follow the journalist around. And he said, look, I think you might have something. Come and do the breakfast show for £12.50 a show. And I said, all right then, 50 quid a week, you're on.
£12.50 for a whole show.
Yeah, and I got up at 4:30 a.m.
How old were you at this point?
think I must have been, that was 96. So what does that make me? 72, 82. What does that make me then? If I was born in 72, 24. I'm not very good at maths, even though my dad was the teacher. So yeah, I was 24 when I worked at Stray FM, and it was kind of, it was a bit of a baptism of fire, really. I had a lovely presenter, a really lovely male presenter that I worked with. And in those days, females, I mean, you had Joe Wiley, who was sort of leading the way, but in those days, in the early 90s, we were, forgive the language, but we were known as giggle bitches or gag slags.
Oh, yeah. You're going to have to explain that.
Yeah.
I'll just take a sip and then I'll
Take
explain.
a sip. Strap in, everybody.
So our role was to laugh at men,
Okay.
or to be a gag slag, so to sit there and to laugh at the gags. So that was really the role. And I think actually things were sort of, they were trying to change things then. And the first man that I worked with was really lovely, but then he wasn't edgy enough, so they got, he went. And then I got another gentleman who was an absolute nightmare. And I won't go into too many details, but he's actually in prison now because he committed he committed a terrible crime. Well, he murdered his girlfriend. It was absolutely horrific. It was horrific. So I worked with a truly, a very, very unpleasant man who committed the ultimate in domestic violence. And I found that was, probably the most traumatic thing that was a start in a radio career, really. And I knew that he didn't have empathy when we were studying Dunblane. We went in and Dunblane had happened. And I went in and he just went, God, there's nothing in here except for, there's no showbiz. It's all just this. And I thought, where is the empathy? Where's the understanding? So I left. I left. And I left radio for a bit, actually. And then I fell into traffic and travel, where you would do sort of 15 bulletins an hour. And I met lots of people, and I learned how to make up traffic and travel.
Make it up.
A1 completely blocked all the way between Newcastle and London.
Well, the A1231 Westington Way in both directions, absolutely heaving. Let's head over to the A183 Chester Road, heading down into Sunderland, past Merrill's Chip Shop. Oh, it's slow and heavy. And then I would flick over from Sun FM to Yorkshire Coast Radio. Is it the 174? I think it's the 174. And then I would flick from there to Minster FM, the A64, heading into York. But it taught you a lot about, and it was all male presenters that I worked for. They would use me to chat around different topics because, it's tough doing a show on your own. Some people like it, but they would sort of use me. And that's when I sort of met a lovely lad called John Foster, who I ended up working at Sun FM with, and then Great North Radio. And that's really what kind of changed my career, really. So because he said, you're more than just traffic. And by the way, traffic is, to be a really good traffic presenter is, I'm not saying that that's not a good thing, because it is, but he wanted to use me for more. And then I ended up co-presenting with him at Great North Radio. And then I went to TFM and then Metro Radio.
Wow.
Oh, you've got your own show on the BBC. That must have felt massive when that happened.
Yeah, I mean, it was really strange, because radio, and I don't know if you guys want to talk about this, but radio was, as I've kind of alluded to, it was really it was quite a man's club, really. And I was told actually by a female boss that I would never have my own show because people didn't like to listen to women on the radio because we just giggled and talked nonsense.
Great.
And I thought, wait a bit, I hear a lot of blokes talking nonsense. Now I hear a lot of brilliant blokes. There's some fantastic men that I've worked with, incredible presenters, but also quite a lot that talk nonsense. It seemed that the playing field wasn't fair.
No.
If there was a bad male presenter, they kind of got away with it. If there was a bad female presenter, then there was all manner of sort of,
Come back.
Yeah, come back on that. And as far as pay goes, like, woof, no equality at all. I remember being at TFM and being on, when I actually had my own show at TFM. And that was amazing, stepping into doing my own show. And I remember at that point, I was on a certain amount of money and everybody else, all the men were on about $9,000 more.
Wow.
That's crazy.
So how did that start to change? Because that has changed now, hasn't it?
Yeah, in 2016. I'd been in radio for years. Yeah,
Not that long ago then, really.
Yeah. I mean, when I was at Metro Radio and I was on quite a famous breakfast show, because that was a huge show, Metro Radio Breakfast. And I have a lot of respect for the gentleman that I work with in terms of broadcast. It was difficult. He's a pretty extraordinary broadcaster, but it was difficult. And he would say that as well. He was, yeah, complex character. He was on a lot more because it was his name on the, on the signposts and everything. But I still did a lot of the work, and it was still very, very commercial radio was miles behind. And then when I went to the BBC, even then it was still quite behind. And it was in 2016, and I'd been there since 2014. And it took another woman quite high up in the BBC as a correspondent. I think she was correspondent over in China, to kind of start saying, hang about, there has to be parity. And I think they started looking at it then, and they had started looking at it before. And relative to a lot of other companies, they did start getting their ducks in order, and now there is parity and there is fairness.
So, does commercial radio, has that caught up in terms of parity now?
There's hardly any left, because what they've done, well, there is, but what they've done is they've got rid of local. They've just got rid of local. So the last local radio show, breakfast show, pretty much around anywhere, Metro Radio was just gone. It's hits radio now. So it's gone. So really with the BBC, I do feel super proud to work for it. And I think they are getting there with women, and with, I suppose, the whole menopause thing as well. I broadcast and have a fan by the side of me. I had Jimmy Nail in front of me, and I had to, oh, Jimmy, stop. Got to put my fan on. I'll take my shoes off, Jimmy.
Would that be your Jimmy Choos?
My crocodile Jimmy Choos.
Yeah.
Some people might think that I might be too honest on air, but I think if you can be honest about things, trying to do an interview with Keir Starmer whilst coping with a massive hot sweaty flush, trying to press the right buttons, forgetting the damn word for umbrella, because I forget words all the time whilst I'm on air.
Yeah, brain fog,
all of that, whilst thinking about being filmed and the fact that you've probably got a tash because you haven't plucked it out, then I think it's good for us as women in our 50s to talk about that, because turning 50 was scary.
Absolutely.
Being honest about these things, I think it must build trust with your listeners as well.
I sometimes worry because I think, am I too open? But then I think I just think if you share your vulnerabilities, then you might make somebody else feel better. And yeah, you might piss somebody off, and somebody might get annoyed and might say, shut up about that. But you know what? If you've made one person feel better and annoyed 5 people who don't have any empathy, well, you know what? In my book, that's actually bloody well fine.
Yeah, I would agree with you.
I know that 27 years ago, the behaviour of people in the workplace was completely different. And I suspect, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, that in the media arena, then it was probably 10 times worse than anything I experienced in an office. What sort of things did you have to put up with when you were up and coming?
My gosh, so much, so much in the early days. I mean, I was at the time, I was always in a relationship. So, and I was actually, to be honest, I was like permanently pregnant. I was pregnant for 3 solid years whilst I was broadcasting. And because in commercial, I didn't get any maternity pay. You just couldn't really take time off because somebody else wanted your job. So I came back after 4 weeks. After I had Jamie, my son, I came back after 4 weeks. So I wasn't kind of like the sexy, sassy single girl. So they knew that I was with somebody, but it didn't stop the fact that, occasionally maybe get your backside slapped. And I was told to like get in the studio, you fat see you went like a couple of times.
No
I mean, I think I've got a pretty good sense of humor, and I think I do consider that there is banter to be had in a workplace.
Yeah.
But sometimes it was a bit beyond that, and I have to say, I would say at times there was bullying. Yeah, there was bullying, definitely, and there wasn't even an HR department.
So
So
There would be nobody for you to take that to complain.
Nah, you would just end up, no, in those days, it was like, well, you know what? There's probably 10 other people that want your job.
Wow.
You know.
So you just have to shut up and put up. Yeah.
Shut up and put up. Now, and so things have changed for the better in that way. And actually, you know what? We do have a lot of fun, and we have a lot of fun in the BBC offices. We are allowed to have a laugh and have a good laugh. So I think that's because I work with a bunch of really good people. But I do think it has changed. But actually, if I look back and think, would I want to go through what I did in my 30s? No. And I mean, that's not to say that I didn't meet brilliant people and have huge respect for the people that I work with. But I don't think it was a particularly healthy working.
No.
I don't think it was a healthy working atmosphere. Not really. If I'm absolutely truthful, not really. And I wish probably I had stood up a little bit earlier, but I didn't, because I think we were frightened for our jobs.
I don't think most of us did. I mean, I experienced when I got engaged to someone when I was in my early 20s, and my manager asked me when I was leaving to have babies.
Yeah.
And I do that now.
I couldn't believe he'd said it.
Yeah.
But that kind of, those sorts of things happened. I didn't complain, but these days I think I would.
Yes, but
Yeah.
would you at that age? I think that's the difference.
No.
When you're younger, you don't complain.
Oh, I don't know. I
No.
think the young ones are more confident
think
now
so?
than about these things, and they kind of they feel like they're more entitled to respect these days.
And in a way, that's a good thing. In a way, it's a good thing. So long as there's resilience and, people aren't taking the mick at work and, not turning up because it's like cold or whatever. So long as there's resilience as well, I kind of applaud that strength that women are now showing, as long as, young lads aren't being ignored as well. Because as we know, ignore young lads at your peril. It's very important that we don't, and teach them about progressive masculinity. That's really important as well.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing with this job, I think I've learned a lot about a lot of different sort of movements and, minorities, but also people that are doing amazing things in our community. And in a world that's a bit topsy-turvy at the minute, it's nice to know there's a lot more good people, really. There's a lot more good people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People
And
that I meet like you.
Well, obviously.
polishes halo.
So you have interviewed lots of people, famous and not famous, and you have a lot of people on your show that aren't celebrities, that they're not famous. Who do you think makes the most interesting people to interview? Is there anybody that's like stuck out? There's obviously not
Obviously,
including us, obviously, because
Obviously, you guys. No, but I think you're wonderful, because I think women can start to feel, and it's 100% true, you can feel invisible, you can feel a bit hopeless, you can feel like your kids are fleeing the nest, you can feel a bit like, what the heck am I doing? What's going on with my life? And so, you're wonderful guests. I would say, truthfully, I have interviewed interesting celebrities. I loved Dawn French. She was gorgeous, but she was selling a book. There's heaps of people, from actors and all sorts of people, pop stars, Cheryl, all sorts of people. But when you're interviewing celebrities, more often than not, they are there to sell something.
Yeah.
They are there to sell a book, sell a film, sell a podcast. That's what they're there to do.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas when you interview ordinary people that are doing extraordinary things, whether it's, I interviewed a lovely lad the other day doing 128 marathons in 128 days for his brother who he lost to suicide. And I found him incredible. People teach you things, amazing things, which actually celebrities tend not to teach you. You get more, I think, from ordinary people. For me, I get nervous with celebrities. I don't sound it, because I try to do that sounding like a swan thing on the surface, but underneath like that.
Mad panic.
Steve Carell. I loved interviewing Steve Carell because he was so warm and gorgeous, from The Office and Despicable Me and all of that.
Yeah, he's a big name.
He's probably the biggest celebrity he's probably the biggest that I have interviewed, but as far as A-listers go. All of that backstage stuff is quite nerve-wracking. But with ordinary people, they are there to share their extraordinary stories. So I find that better.
What about the celebrities? Do you get bad behaviour from them, or are they generally very courteous and lovely?
Obviously, you can't.
Obviously,
you won't want to name them.
name them. No, I've had some lovely people. I have also had some people who were more difficult. You'll get ones, I can't say who, but I did a Geordie Shore interview where this person was, and I was quite into Geordie Shore. I was watching it quite a lot, even though it's a pretty shocking show. I was into it. And this person was like 25 minutes late for the interview. Well, in live radio, you can't be late. So 25 minutes late. So I was on edge and panicking, and I lost control of the interview because I was sort of panicking. And my boss at the time called me in and he went, "That's the worst interview I've ever had."
So you touched on aging a bit ago about losing your confidence, because I was thinking when I was in my 20s, if I'd had some hassle like at work, I know I would not have said anything and I would have just ignored it and cracked on. Now I'm in my 50s, I absolutely would stand up and say something. But I don't know if that's because it's me as a person or because I'm now older and I'm prepared to stand up and say no. What do you think?
I think you give less of a fiddle-dee-dee.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
And I just think also you think that you think that actually it's your time to say something, because time's the most precious thing we have. And you know what? We don't have it forever. When I lost, and we all lost our gorgeous friend Lisa Shaw, who, you know, Lisa and was all over the papers because, of course, with the AstraZeneca, she was the one in a million or more than that who was deeply affected. Well, yeah, she lost her life. And that threw me so much, and it just threw me massively. And I just kept thinking, well, this life is an absolute privilege and you're not here forever. And it's scary to think about that. But actually, if something is there, not that you wish ever to hurt anybody or upset anybody or be offensive to anybody, but you still can stand up and say something if you communicate it correctly. I think it's about listening as well.
Yeah. There's a way to tackle things, isn't there? You can't just wade in with your big boots on. You have to think about pipe down you.
I've got like massive size 20s when it comes to stuff like that.
I hate confrontation.
I don't mean to. I'm hopeless. I
can't imagine you offending anybody.
Well, I don't mean to usually. And I just somehow, I don't even know how I do it. I really don't.
I've never been offended by you, Yvonne, so that's fine.
That's because she's not put a big size 20 boots on.
Thank you very much, you ugly cow.
That's really
that's funny.
So, what's next for you, Anna? After BBC Life and all the glamour and the glitz and
it's not glamorous. I mean, you've had BBC coffee; it's awful.
No comment.
No comment. Well, do you know, I feel so privileged to do the job that I do, and I love the job that I do. You know, because I get to tell stories of the people of the Northeast and things that I'm passionate about, you know, mental health and all of those things. So I do love the job that I do. I also think when you get to a certain age, you need to give yourself some challenges. And I think otherwise you can kind of stagnate. And I've done radio for a long time. So I'll tell you one thing that I have started doing. A friend of mine, Jo Lyons, who's great, actually, you should have Jo, she started writing books. And like you, Yvonne, like, and she's written a load of rom-coms, and she's got a publishing deal, and she's asked me to read the books. So I've started to do that, and I'm really loving it. I'm loving narrating books, so I'm really enjoying that. So that's good fun. You know, I'm hosting quite a few events. I'd love to do a counselling course. I'd love to do like a mental health counselling course. I would like to do that a lot. Yeah. And then run a goat therapy farm on the Isle of Skye.
I'm sorry? You can't just slip that in and not explain. A goat. Do you mean you give therapy to the goats or what?
No, you have like lovely little pygmy goats, and then people come along who are a bit stressed. You might do a counselling session and then get to play with the goats and then live on the Isle of Skye or Bamborough, but I can't afford Bamborough.
You need to tell them that clearing up goat poo is also therapeutic.
Yes.
Very therapeutic. Yeah.
And also cleaning out the goat shed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
all those sorts of things.
You'll thank me one day.
Yeah. And also, what about singing?
Yes, So so I want to sing more. So I sing with a little choir in the northeast, and I love it, up near Stanley. And we meet every week, and I really enjoy my singing. And yeah, I do some solos and things and bits and bobs, and then I might do, a few concerts here and there. I would like to be brave and try and do a bit more. So I am very much a classical singer. So Mozart, some light Puccini, Handel, Schumann, Schubert, and that kind of thing. But I would also like to try a bit of kind of jazz. And a friend of mine plays in a bar in, I think it's North Shields or Whitley Bay. And he said, will you come along and do some like Gershwin and that kind of thing? So I might be brave and do that, girls, at some point. It's the age thing that puts me off. Are you singing?
No, I was just going to say, funny you should say that, because it's my 60th birthday next year, and I'm having it in a jazz bar, and I'm looking for a singer, Anna. You could start your career.
I love it. It's a yes from me. The thing is, you say no.
Well, we have joked about.
You think you're too old. That's the thing, is that I go, I'm too old at 52 to be getting up and singing in a nice little sassy dress. And then I think, why am I too old? Madonna's still slut dropping. I slut drop when I'm not in front of people. Why shouldn't I get out there and, have a good time? And I'm very passionate about that, by the way, that you should be allowed to dance. You should be allowed to be seen. You should be allowed to go out and party. You can have fun. I mean, I go and meet a friend in Glasgow and we go and listen to tech music in the sub club. And why shouldn't we? I love that. I love my dance music. I don't think we should have a label on us. So, but it's that bravery that you've got to have.
There's no age limit on having fun and going out and dancing and doing anything you want. And sadly, society can sometimes make us feel there is, but there isn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just go for it.
Yeah. You're made to feel like a discoing granny, aren't you?
Yeah.
Mum dancing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't care. I'm a good mum dancer and I'm happy with it. So, I mean, I've got a completely flat bottom, but it's like totally flat. It's like Norfolk. It's flat and a bit dull. But I'll still slut drop.
Well, I have, but I'm known amongst my friends for my slut dropping. So you're in good company, Anna.
Yeah, well, it's good for your thighs as well. It's really good for your thighs.
I think I need to get a bit more limber in the thigh department.
I think you maybe do, darling. Limber up those inner thighs.
Yeah, good. That's another thing you shouldn't stop doing just because you get older.
Right. Well, my husband would definitely agree. So I want to move us on now, because we're dying to hear about your cocktail, Anna.
Right, okay. So obviously this is very last minute because I thought it meant drink a cocktail whilst I was on air. So I'm going to go for, it's going to be called the Chaotic But Kind, right? I'm going to have vodka in it because A, it gets you drunk, and B, it makes me bouncy. So I'm going to have vodka in it. I'm going to have raspberry and amaretto in it. Raspberry because the fruit is good for you, and
one of your 5 a day.
Yeah, and it's wholesome. So I like to think that I'm a reasonably wholesome, half decent person that might be good for somebody. I don't know. Ask my family. And then amaretto because that's almond and that's a bit nutty. And let's face it, it's a bit of.
Yes.
That's fine. The only normal people you know, the ones you don't know very well. Very important to remember that. And then I'm going to have a massive amount of soda water because even though the vodka is quite bad for you, a bit of gin in there as well, just to add a bit of add a bit of an exotic mixture. But the soda water, because ultimately that'll be kind and that'll be kind to you and you'll thank me for it. So, and I like to think there's a bit of kindness in here.
Oh, there's a lot more than a bit of kindness in you, Anna. Yeah. There's a lot of kindness in you.
Well,
there's also a lot of nuttiness, but that's just what we like. Which is probably why we've become friends and we've been out and had a laugh because like-minded women.
Yeah, and as soon as I met you, I love that, and that's the thing when you meet somebody and you truly click with them, and I clicked with you guys, and I think we're of that age. And actually, we met again, Marie, in a shop looking at products. I was
For the
feeling
menopause.
We were in the menopause aisle in a health shop.
We were, and that's how we met. Both.
Yeah.
We got chatting because that's what women do, isn't it? You just start to chat. So we were both looking for something to help us through the menopause.
Yeah.
I think also you're never too old to make new friends. I mean, we've only known each other a couple of years.
Yeah. I was just thinking that earlier, actually. It's nearly 2 years now
Yeah.
since we met, yeah.
And like,
I
we've
think
become friends with you, and
I think that's very interesting because it's that saying yes thing to opportunities. And
Yeah.
you learn things from people, because sometimes people are like, nah, I'm that old now, I can't be asked with anybody. But actually, it's opportunities to learn. And also you change as you grow older, and you meet people that might be like-minded to you as you've grown older.
Yeah.
exactly, yeah.
I think that's a lovely, and actually in an age of where there isn't a lot of human connection, I know phones are important. We're on one now. It's what's happening in the world. But I also think actually meeting people face to face, and when you are with those people, putting your bloody phone down is really important.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
So
No phones
cheers
at the
to that,
table.
and no phones at the table. So so cheers to that, and meeting and having a drink and no phones soon.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right, okay. Well, thank you very much for coming on, and thank you for being our friends.
Well, it's
Right.
been fab chatting to you.
Okay. Thank you very
Lovely
much.
chatting to you as well, girls. Thank you.
See you soon.
See
Take
ya.
care.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you to our guest this week, and thanks for listening.
And we look forward to roaring with you again.